All right, welcome everybody. My name is Matt Mahoney. I'm the Director of Government Affairs with Sustainable Pittsburgh, and welcome to today's SCDN Policy Connection Climate Action Planning Resources and Funding Opportunities. This will be recorded, and the materials that are shared in today's program will be shared afterwards in an email to everybody that registered. We encourage everyone to submit their questions in the Q&A box, and we'll work as best as we can to answer those at the appropriate time. And I encourage everyone right now to enter your name and your organization in the chat so folks know who else is joining us today for today's conversation. A little bit about Sustainable Pittsburgh. We're committed to building the knowledge, perspective, and ability needed to create a better tomorrow for our region, having worked with nearly 1,000 businesses, communities, and organizations to take action on our customized frameworks to advance social equity, environmental stewardship, and prosperity. The strategic networks that we host leverage the collective expertise of diverse perspectives within our region and ensure our communities can meet our challenges today and thrive into the future. And that's why we've invited you all here today as part of the Sustainable Community Development Network, to learn together so we can act together. And together is how we can co-create a fundamentally equitable, resilient, healthy, and prosperous region in southwestern Pennsylvania. Thank you to our sponsors who make this program of an opportunity for us to do with Pitt, Ohio and Xylem, as well as our other sponsors that make this program offer opportunity for you. So let's jump into the agenda. So for today's agenda, we're going to start off with a quick overview of Sustainable Pittsburgh's programs from our own program manager and systems administrator, Sawyer Seidlinger. Then we're happy to be joined by Penn State University's Brandy Robinson, an associate teaching professor in the university's Department of Energy and Mineral Engineering with a background in geography, who's going to talk a lot about climate action solutions. Then we'll hear from Elena Schmieder, who oversees programs at the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority to support energy efficiency and renewable energy projects across the state. And next, we'll hear from Chris Naif and Sarah Pinter, energy program specialists in the Energy Programs Office at the Pennsylvania Energy Department, or Department of Environmental Protection. Chris manages the local climate action program that assists local governments, and Sarah leads and supports public engagement for energy and climate change topics across a wide variety of programs. After Chris and Sarah, I'll provide a quick overview of a few updates on more federal and state programs that are available for local governments to advance climate action planning efforts, and we'll make sure to leave some time for Q&A. For any questions, please use the Q&A chats so we can keep things separate, and ask for more information on certain topics covered today, and we'll queue those up, like I said, the best we can. So without further ado, I pass it off to Sawyer to provide a quick overview of our programs here at Sustainable Pittsburgh. Sawyer?
Thanks, Matt, and thank you everyone for joining us today. To kick things off, I'll start by sharing about Sustainable Pittsburgh's recognition program. We have 4 programs, 3 for businesses in the southwestern Pennsylvania 10-county region. We have Sustainable Pittsburgh Shop, that's tailored for small retail businesses, Sustainable Pittsburgh Restaurants, suited for food businesses, and Sustainable Pittsburgh Workplace, a catch-all for those that are not restaurants or shops. We also offer Sustainable Pennsylvania, a program created for municipalities across the state. These programs offer a step-by-step process to track and measure sustainability progress, as well as a framework that organizations can use to drive measurable impact while providing recognition for their sustainability achievements. Programs are based on market-selected practices and have been peer-reviewed by knowledge experts. Programs are fluid and changing based on changes in needs, opportunity, and landscape, and opportunities for impacts. Recognition comes in the form of bronze, silver, gold, and platinum level of designation or certification. And that is based on overall sustainability performance and determined by completing an online assessment through our unique portal offered by Sustainable Pittsburgh. To date, participation includes 400 businesses, organizations, and municipalities, with dozens more working through the process. In addition to our recognition program, Sustainable Pittsburgh also hosts sprints. These are free and friendly time-bound competitions where businesses, organizations, and municipalities take actions to jumpstart progress on specific sustainability topics and earn recognition for their achievements. Focus topics so far have included social equity in 2023 and most recently our carbon reduction sprint. After 6 months of close competition, scores were tallied and 4 top scorers from participating shops, restaurants, workplaces, and municipalities were just publicly announced and awarded for their achievement. Nearly 120 organizations competed in the carbon reduction sprint, including 50 municipalities across Pennsylvania. Palmer Township earned the top scorer title among municipalities, earning 155 points. They're based in Northampton County, and the township is also recognized as a silver certified sustainability community through the Sustainable Pennsylvania program. According to Palmer Township, the sprint helped them quantify their existing measures to achieve decarbonization and motivated them to adopt more sustainable initiatives, including several positive operational and policy changes for their community. I want to also note some of our other top scorers. We have Portia Donuts in the restaurant category. They earned 133 points and are working towards their Sustainable Pittsburgh restaurant designation. For the shops category, we have Bike Share Pittsburgh, or POGO, as many of us know in the Pittsburgh area. They took the top spot for the shops category, earning 91 points, and is also in process to earn their Sustainable Pittsburgh shop designation. In addition to their recognition in the carbon reduction sprint, they also were a top scorer in the social equity sprint in 2023. And lastly, our workplace category, we had Lux for MagTech that claimed the top score and by earning a total of 100 points, and most recently completed the process to also earn silver Sustainable Pittsburgh Workplace designation. And I want to congratulate all of those top scorers and thank all the participants that were involved in the carbon reduction sprint. I want to next go into a little bit more detail about the Sustainable Pennsylvania program. As many of you are representative of the municipal audience, I want to talk a little bit more about Sustainable Pennsylvania. It is managed by Sustainable Pittsburgh in partnership with the Pennsylvania Municipal League. The program provides strategies, resources, and recognition to municipalities for improving the quality of life and expanding opportunities for everyone. It covers a comprehensive set of sustainability topics and provides a step-by-step guidance for how your community can advance its performance in areas such as waste, materials management, economic development and revitalization, parks and land conservation, as well as several other topics that can help to build a more vibrant and resilient community. The Sustainable Pennsylvania program offers several benefits. First and foremost, it can help with baselining your municipality's current sustainability performance, as well as serve as an action plan for advancing your efforts. To help you advance your progress, the program also offers resources, tools, and best practices developed by over 60 advisors. Getting certified helps your community to be recognized as a leader in sustainability. You will receive a promotional kit, which includes a badge for inclusion on your website, job postings and other uses, a press release template, and we'll also share your achievement over social media. Participation in the program can also help you understand and further grow your sustainable development initiatives, as well as providing a platform for interested stakeholders to engage. Sustainable Pennsylvania certification also is recognized by the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development's municipal funding applications, which can help a funding application to stand out through clear demonstration of sustainability commitments and increase your chances of approval. There are just 4 steps to getting certified, and if any of you are interested in any of the programs that I've listed, Sustainable Pennsylvania, shops, restaurants, or workplaces, you can take some time right now, use your phone and go through and use the QR code, and it will take you to the first step, which is to create an account. You can either follow the QR code on this slide or go to our website, sustainablepennsylvania.org, and create an account through there. Next, you will answer all the questions in the program. The program will take the form of an online assessment, and questions are customized for municipalities. You can work with a team of colleagues to complete this, which is a great way to organize a sustainability team within your municipality. Third, after you complete your assessment and submit it, our staff will provide feedback on your responses that will give you a chance to address any of the submissions that you've provided and make any other changes that may be necessary for you before getting recognized. Lastly, after we have reviewed and spoke with you, you then will earn a level of bronze, silver, gold, or platinum certification. These are based on two criteria: total percentage of possible points you can earn, and whether you've completed the actions required for each level. There's no deadline to participate, and certifications expire every 3 years. And now I'll hand it back to Matt. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Sawyer, and appreciate that great overview of our programs. I highly encourage anybody that's interested in exploring how to take their sustainability actions to the next step. And having third-party certification, having another entity take a look, verify, and help you expand or brainstorm into other areas. Sustainable Pittsburgh has been doing this work for over 20 years, and the work, as you all know or may not, is continuously updated and continuously worked on. So highly encourage anybody that's interested to take a closer look. Use the QR code to look up the Sustainable Pennsylvania program, or if you're a shop, a business, a workplace, a restaurant, take a closer look at those programs and find out how certification, Sustainable Pennsylvania, or Sustainable Restaurant Certification, Sustainable Shop certification can be beneficial for you, your business, and your community. So without further ado, let's move on to the topic at hand, our climate action planning resources and funding opportunities. So let's dive right into the topic, or into the content today with our first speaker, which is Brandy Johnson from Penn State University, who is an associate teaching professor in the Department of Energy and Mineral Engineering with a background in geography focused on climate action solutions. She co-directs the local climate action program, partnering with students with local governments in Pennsylvania to develop greenhouse gas emission inventories and climate action plans. Great resource for our local government partners. Brandy also chairs the Center Region Planning Agency's Technical Advisory Group, contributing to the Regional Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. So welcome, Brandy, and thank you for joining us today to share your knowledge and insights from your amazing work.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here. I'd say see everyone, but I can't see anyone, so I will trust that you are out there. All right, hold on. Let me make sure that my screens are behaving themselves. So, okay, you can go ahead and advance it to the next slide. So thank you, everyone. I thought that before I dug in and got started here, I would tell you just a little bit about Peter and I as the directors of the program. I'm kind of coming at this with the perspective that maybe you are out there in a local government capacity and thinking about participating in our local climate action program. And so I want you to know a little bit about it. So as Matt just mentioned, he told you a little bit about my background, but collectively, Peter and I have been working in various facets of climate action in local government for the past almost 10 years, perhaps. And a million years ago, I did my graduate research on this. So it's really nice to get to work on something that I care so much about. And I think that both for our students and our community members and our local government officials and decision makers, you know, sometimes thinking about climate change on the global scale can feel a little daunting, and the doom and gloom can weigh pretty heavily on us. But when we tackle these things at the local scale, where we can actually see the difference we're making and create a positive impact for our community around us, it can be very empowering, both for students and the rest of us who care about this. So that's really why I like working at the local level. Peter has been an elected official. He currently sits on our school board. He's a former Board of Supervisors member in Ferguson Township. And so his perspective on kind of what's possible and what's not has been really helpful as we've built this out. Next slide, please. So the way that we approach the local climate action program is to take this very global challenge and focus on the local solutions that are available and really base all of it on this shared value that we often have that crosses political and other divides, and that's a love of home. And so we instill this in our students. We emphasize the importance of this in the community partners we work with, recognizing that none of us is particularly directly experiencing an increase in the global average, mean temperature each year, right? But the place we live might be experiencing more extreme weather, might be experiencing more drought, more, the list goes on, more vector-borne diseases. I'm thinking about Lyme disease and what a big problem that is across our state and how that is influenced by climate change. And so we try to take these global things and really drill them down and think about how they are influenced by and influence all of these different scales of governance. So here I just, pulled together some screenshots down in that bottom right corner. That's our Ferguson Township resolution to be net zero by 2050 that was adopted in 2017. We've got, Pennsylvania's climate action plan, thinking about national things, all the way up to how this all feeds into the US nationally determined contribution to the Paris Agreement. And so it's all connected, and we try to emphasize that in LCAP. Next slide, please. So I think that Matt mentioned this earlier. So LCAP has been around now for 5+ years. It started in the Energy Programs Office, initially with Heidi Kunsch. And the idea here was that the DEP Energy Programs Office was helping to broker these relationships between university faculty and a handful of their students with local government officials. And this was happening at a variety of colleges and universities all across the state, kind of co-located with the communities they were serving. And in addition to that, they partnered with ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, to offer some training webinars about using their ClearPath software to produce greenhouse gas emissions inventories, and then subsequently draft some climate action plans over the course of usually 2 semesters worth of work. And this partnership worked really well, and there were 3 years under this model with DEP's leadership. I should mention that DEP Energy Programs Office was financially supporting this in that they were covering the cost of those ICLEI ClearPath software license memberships for all of the communities that were participating, which was hugely helpful. This happened for 3 years. I had the opportunity to participate as an individual faculty member doing a couple of those projects each of those years. I'll note that each of those years was very adversely impacted by the COVID pandemic. The first year of the program was 2019, 2020. So that was how things started for the first 3 years, and it was working really well. Next slide, please. But then at some point, and maybe Chris or Sarah can talk more about this, DEP recognized that maybe it would be valuable for the program itself to be housed within a university so that there was an opportunity to provide more sort of curriculum around the experience that the students were doing and more continuity of building these longer term relationships between communities and the universities that were serving them in this capacity. And so Penn State was approached to see if we might want to be that spot. And we were super excited to be that spot, and we still are. And so we are getting ready to start our 3rd cohort of the Penn State-led version of LCAP. And it still operates in a very similar structure to what it did initially. And so we have 2 3-credit courses that students take, one in the fall and one in the subsequent spring. We are still partnering with the Energy Programs Office, and they are still providing the support for those ClearPath licenses for participating LCAP communities. And We've also expanded some of the partnerships that we have. Center Sustains is listed here. I need to update this because we also have an agreement with Connect, the Congress of Neighboring Communities, I think, that's out in the Western Pennsylvania area. So we work closely with them, and we're really excited. We will have our biggest LCAP crop of both participating municipalities and other local governments, as well as our biggest batch of students starting in a couple of weeks. So that's pretty exciting. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to give you, you can look here for some of the LCAP communities that have participated. I saw earlier that we have Kate from Solbury is on here. Kate's been an excellent LCAP participant. I don't know if we have anybody else from any of the participating communities that I saw, but anyway, these are the communities that we've had a chance to work with in the past 2 years. Next slide, please. So in the fall semester, we start things out with the inventory. We can't really dig into the work of reducing emissions until we understand what those emissions are and where they're coming from. And so partnering with Chris Naif, who is also on this call, Chris helps us get a lot of the utility data that we need from the electric and the natural gas companies. And that is hugely helpful. We're also pulling together data related to transportation emissions and then the operation of water, wastewater facilities, solid waste management, and a little bit of ag. And so we walk the students through the course of the semester, what that data is, why that data matters, where you get the data, what you do with incomplete and sometimes inaccurate data when you get it to make it usable. And then we're running it all through ClearPath. We're working directly with ICLEI to make sure that we're getting everything in line in ClearPath correctly. We're pulling together inventory results, and then we're sharing those out, usually at a public board of supervisors or city council meeting, sometimes with an environmental advisory council, whatever the case may be, by the end of that fall semester. Next slide, please. I pulled just a couple of, oh, I forgot about that little guy. Really, it's worth mentioning. I'm glad that little pink box is there. The data collection, interpretation, and analysis is really a wild card for how our semester goes. But I think Chris would agree. We feel like we have these data ducks in a really good row this year. We're kind of at the mercy of the utility companies, really, for providing the biggest pieces of our data, because as you'll see in a minute, not unexpectedly, energy makes up a huge piece of your, it's a big piece of the emissions pie overall. So we want to make sure that we get that right, and we can't do a lot until we have that data. Next slide. So these are just a couple examples from, these happen to both have been in the first Penn State cohort. These are the emissions profiles for Euclid Township as well as Lower Marion Township. And so these are pulled from the slideshow presentations that those students gave to their community partners at the end of the semester, looking at what the emissions profiles were for those communities. Next slide. I think I have 2 more. Yeah. We had the good fortune of working with both Doylestown Borough and Doylestown Township in the first cohort, and these are also the inventory results for them. Next slide. So then we get to the spring semester, and this is really fun, I'll be honest. You know, we have to do the important work of getting that inventory set up, because once we start talking about what we can do to reduce emissions, we want to make sure that we have benchmarked emissions really well so that we can see how effective the policies that the communities choose to implement are down the road. I like to think of the spring semester as choose your own climate policy adventure. And one of the main challenges that I had as a faculty member participating in the first iteration of LCAP, those first 3 years, was that we were trying to pull together these draft climate action plans in 4 months. And that's often just not feasible. I mean, sure, we can put together kind of a very basic one, but it doesn't give you much time for doing community engagement, stakeholder outreach, and really digging in and finding out what your community needs, what they want to prioritize, and things like that. And so I felt like some of those draft climate action plans that we were able to produce weren't personalized enough for the communities we were working with. And so when Penn State took over, we decided that we were going to open up that spring semester a bit for more possibilities of the types of things that we could do. And so we sit down at the beginning of the semester, Peter and I, the student or students working with the community and our community representatives, and we figure out, okay, knowing now what you know about your emissions inventory, where do you want to focus? What would be helpful? And so we craft sort of a scope of work and a list of deliverables that we work on together throughout that semester. And I think that this really helps us design something that is tailor-made to what that community needs at that time. So for example, when we worked with Lower Merion Township, they were already in a bigger process of creating a broader sustainability plan. And so what our students were doing for them was creating emissions reductions forecast scenarios that were going to feed into that sustainability plan. They didn't need a draft climate action plan. They were already working on something bigger that kind of encompassed that, but they did have a specific need that we were able to fulfill. And at the end of that semester, we come back and we're presenting those findings in another public meeting, just like we did in the fall. And I think I have a couple of examples. Next slide, please. Oh, Lower Merion. That's why it's at the top of my mind. So here are some screenshots of their adopted sustainability plan that's out online that you can check out now, and the emissions reductions forecasting scenarios that our students did as part of that work. We had 2 students who worked with Lower Merion Township. Next slide, please. The city of Scranton was a really good example. So Scranton said right off the bat, we know we cannot produce the city of Scranton's climate action plan in 4 months. So what they wanted our students to do was to create a community survey, which our students did, and they had that translated into Spanish as well to kind of gauge community interest in things related to climate action. And then the big deliverable that our students produced was they drafted the scope of work that was used in the city's request for proposals for consultants to come and do a full-fledged climate action plan. So our students researched what that usually looked like. They looked at other requests for proposals. They met with their community partners in the city of Scranton to figure out what was really a priority for them. And they drafted that, and the RFP that went out had our students' work in it, which was pretty cool. Next slide, please. So here are the things that the main takeaways for you. You know, what's really nice about this is that it's really mutually beneficial, right? All of these communities, everyone on this call can attest to the fact that you want to do this work. It's important work, and you probably don't have enough people on staff that have the bandwidth to work on it in light of everything else they're expected to do. So we come in and we can kind of help move things along incrementally. For the students, it's so great to have the opportunity to work on something that has a life beyond a digital Dropbox. They're getting real world experience doing something that's highly transferable wherever life may take them after graduation. And so it kind of often works out really well for everyone involved. The next, and really my last real slide. You know, what does it take to participate? What do we need out of a municipality or local government partner? We're going to need access to some data. Like I said, a lot of it we can get ourselves. Mostly what we need help with is understanding how water, wastewater, and solid waste are managed in your community. You need to be able to regularly meet with us and the students and be accessible to them. Otherwise, we become a distant partner and the work that we're doing doesn't feel quite as relevant. And finally, we do really need strong direction from the community partner about what it is you want us to help you accomplish in that spring semester. And the last thing I'll say is that we don't just let any student sign up for the class who wants to. We make them apply. That's a cover letter, references, resume, interview, me scrutinizing their course history. We only take the best of the best. And so we're pretty proud of the work that they're able to produce for our community. So if LCAP sounds like something that you all might want to do, we should talk. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Brandy. That was fantastic. And I assume that this link right here will take you to
Totally.
the LCAP program, which is Local Climate Action Program,
Mhm.
available for local governments, which
Yep.
is a phenomenal resource for anybody that's anywhere in their sustainability journey in the local government sphere. So thank you so much, Brandy. Fantastic information. We'll circle back with any questions as we go, but thank you so much.
Mhm.
Moving right along, I'm happy to introduce Elena Schmieder, who is a 5-year veteran at the Department of Environmental Protection and a true green energy enthusiast. Through her work, Elena oversees the Energy Accelerator Program at the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority, where she's helping to increase energy efficiency projects across the state. So welcome, Elena. We're looking forward to learning more about the exciting programs that you're involved in to support local governments in Pennsylvania.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be able to share this opportunity with everyone today. I am Elena Schmieder, as he's mentioned, and I work for DEP, but I also work primarily with the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority. And today we're going to talk about the Municipal Opportunities for Retrofits and Energy Efficiency program, which we'll discuss in more detail in just a moment. Next slide, please. So just off the top, Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority, or what we commonly call PEDA, is an independent public financing authority, and it does operate out of the Energy Programs Office here at DEP. And its mission is to finance clean, advanced energy projects in Pennsylvania. And it currently has established the Energy Accelerator Program, also known as the EAP. Now, the EAP is currently what we're considering Pennsylvania's Green Bank, which has been a long time coming. So we're really excited that we finally are able to offer that to our residents. Now, the EAP currently has 2 active programs. The MORE program, which is what we're here to discuss today, which is the Municipal Opportunities for Retrofits and Energy Efficiency. But it also has another program, the Keystone Energy Efficiency Program, which is a residential energy efficiency financing program. And both of these programs did just launch in 2024. So when I say that we're a brand new green bank, that's what I mean. We have 2 active programs and they just launched this year. But we do have additional programs that are on the way and in the works right now. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the MORE program. It is a 2-part energy efficiency funding program for municipalities. It consists of both a grant and a MORE loan. Currently, municipalities have few options available to finance projects with impactful energy savings potential. And the MORE grant and loan work together to create the most affordable financing option to address municipalities' energy upgrade needs. Now, the primary goal of this program is to improve energy efficiency for local government buildings and facilities by reducing barriers to affordable financing to accomplish larger, more effective energy efficiency projects. MORE offers municipalities a new opportunity to complete projects with impactful energy savings potential and reduce their energy costs. Next slide, please. So, who is eligible for this program? Essentially, it is open to all Pennsylvania municipal governments, except those governments who received direct payments from Department of Energy's EECBG program, which is the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. We had about 42 cities and counties across Pennsylvania who were eligible to receive that. And as long as they were eligible, they cannot apply for more for the time being. But anybody who did not receive an EECBG grant is eligible to apply for the program. Now, if you're not sure if you are eligible or not, I do have a list on our website, which I'll be providing in the chat here in a minute. And you can check out the list of EECBG recipients. Eligible units of local government include counties, cities, boroughs, towns, townships, and municipal authorities. Now, I have received a few questions about some other potential eligible units of local government. If you do not fall into one of these categories, I recommend reaching out to me and we review those on a case-by-case basis, kind of check the legal definitions and see what we might be able to work out for you. Last, I also wanted to mention in terms of eligibility are the priority recipients. We have a list of approximately 102 municipalities across the state who we are considering priority recipients. These recipients are eligible for a larger portion of the grant, and I'll talk about some of those details here in just a second. Let's go to the next slide. So getting into the grant piece, this is the first piece of the program that I really wanted to discuss because it's currently open and we want anybody who is eligible for the MORE program to apply for the grant first. So what it aims to do is knock down some of the barriers for funding to accomplish larger energy efficiency upgrades. So the MORE grant is approximately $1.8 million, and it is a first come, first served program. So right now, we do have 1 million of the 1.8 million reserved for just the priority applicants if they apply through August 30th. Now, if those funds are not 100% used by August 30th, then we will be able to reallocate those funds to the larger fund for everybody to be able to apply for. Once that window, if for some reason we run out of funds before that, we will start like a waiting list. But in terms of how much you can apply for, there's $50,000 available per application, and one application can be used for any one or all three of these eligible uses. So there is the level 2 commercial energy audit, which is a requirement for the MORE loan. And the results of that would be energy conservation measures or recommendations for energy efficiency upgrades. So the second use of this grant is for energy conservation measure project design and MORE loan application development. So once you get those audit results and you want to put together a project to apply for the MORE loan to be able to make those upgrades, that is essentially what that cost would cover. And then the last use of the grant is the interest rate buy down. So depending on how much funding is used for the first two options, you may be able to buy an interest rate down on a MORE loan to potentially 0% based on a number of factors. But we do recommend anybody who applies for this loan or this grant, I'm sorry, to not only apply early, but I recommend applying for the full amount just because you don't know what the results of those audits are going to be. And if you would like to take out a larger loan or be able to buy that interest rate down as much as possible, I would love for you to just apply for the full amount in order to be able to make that possible. And then the last point that I wanted to make on here was that applications for everybody will close on October 25th. So I'm assuming there is a possibility that we could run out of funding as it is first come, first served, and we have a limited, finite pot of funds, that we could potentially run out of funding before the end of the application window. So again, don't wait to apply early so we can get those funds out the door and ensure that you get them. Next slide, please. So let's get into the loan a little bit. Loans can be used for retrofits, energy efficiency upgrades, and renewable energy generation when paired with energy efficiency measures. So as you can tell, this program is geared toward energy efficiency more than the renewable energy piece. The loan is essentially for the construction component of energy upgrades. So while the grant kind of took down some of those barriers for applying for financing, the loan is essentially where those upgrades get implemented. This does not apply to new builds if you are considering that. And also for the renewable energy generation, it would have to be included in your level 2 energy audit as a recommendation to help with your energy efficiency. And it can't be installed on its own. It would have to also be installed with those energy conservation measures that we mentioned as the result of a level 2 energy audit. Now, these loans, as I said before, can have an interest rate that can be bought down. And we are offering these loans for up to a 15-year repayment period or the end of a project's useful life. This is something that's going to be determined whenever you would go through the loan application of, how long a project's useful life is. But we are able to offer up to 15 years because that's essentially what the federal sources that we had for this would allow as the maximum period. And I think that that is it for my slides, but I did want to mention that we do understand that this program is pretty complicated. So I strongly encourage you to reach out with questions. We want to engage with communities about the application process and be able to provide guidance wherever we can. I will unfortunately not be on for the Q&A portion today as I have to attend another meeting, but my DEP colleagues can help answer your questions. Or I also encourage you to reach out to me directly offline. I will provide the program website, which has my contact info in the chat, so you have that information. And last but not least, grant applications are already rolling in. So I recommend that if you are considering applying for a MORE grant, please apply soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena. And of course, very exciting information and news for Pennsylvania. And fantastic to hear so much activity taking place at our Pennsylvania's Energy Development Authority, and our Green Bank is growing here in Pennsylvania. I do want to draw everybody's attention because Elena does have to jump. There were a few questions that were popped up into the chat that I just wanted to draw everybody's attention to. One question was focused on environmental justice communities, asking whether or not environmental justice communities are given any prioritization. And you were right, Elena, your DEP colleagues were right on it. There is a link in the chat. Priority community is based on environmental justice communities from DOE's definition. There's a link in the chat, but Elena, I wanted to offer that one to you if you had anything else to expand on.
Thank you for that. Actually, Colleen answered that perfectly. So
Perfect.
it isn't just environmental justice communities that are considered priority. We cross-referenced our environmental justice communities with the Act 47 definition of communities experiencing severe financial difficulties. And I'll admit this is not a perfect list of priority applicants. We had to go with the data that we had available to us at the time, which unfortunately was affected by COVID.
Understood. That makes sense. Another question, which organizations are eligible to conduct the energy audits? And how might an organization that performs energy audits become a partner?
So organizations who are eligible to conduct energy audits is anybody who is currently certified to do level 2 commercial energy audits, as that is the requirement for the grant. We don't have any lists of like partners that we work with, but I recommend if you possibly know anybody, like if you are an auditor, you can of course work with any of the municipalities, like reach out to them directly, but we don't have like a list that we're working off of or pre-approved auditors.
Thank you. And there are lists that are available for other energy related programs that I'm sure there's some crossover to help folks get started. And always recommend folks that are interested in learning more about energy efficiency resources, check out the Energy Efficiency Alliance or the Keystone Energy Efficiency Alliance for more information on energy efficiency businesses and such. And again, there are resources, a few links that were put in the chat, and I'm sure Elena will have maybe put your email in there to help folks connect with you afterwards. But thank you so much, Elena. Appreciate your presentation and great information. And thank you for putting up for putting together such a great presentation on a new program and letting more folks know about it. And I believe there is a program that we'll be talking about later that will also highlight this that folks can sign up for. All right. Well, moving along to our next group of speakers, we have Chris Naif, an energy program specialist with the Energy Programs Office at the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. Chris works with local climate action programs, assisting local governments complete greenhouse gas inventories and climate action plans. And prior to working with the Commonwealth, Chris was a sustainability coordinator at the city of Harrisburg here in Pennsylvania. And I'm also excited to introduce Sarah Pinter, who is the energy program specialist focusing on energy equity, environmental justice, and workforce initiatives in the Energy Programs Office at the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, where she leads and supports public engagement for energy and climate change topics, connects communities with energy funding opportunities, and collaborates with the broader team and institutional partners to create opportunities in the energy workforce. So thank you both for joining us, and I will pass it off to Chris.
Sure. Okay, So, as Matt said, Chris Naif, I manage the Shared Energy Manager program among a number of others in the Energy Programs Office at DEP. A lot of the programs and a lot of the work that I do is was taking over the things that were originally started by Heidi Kunsch, as Brandy had mentioned earlier, the LCAP program, which has now been handed off to Penn State, as well as Shared Energy Manager and Capstone, which are programs designed to try to help local communities once they have completed a climate action plan and they have an idea as to what they want to do to try to provide the technical support to help them identify programs and projects that they want to try to put into practice and implement out of those plans. If you go to the next slide. So originally, as Brady had mentioned, the LCAP program was started in our office. It was a partnership between DEP, ICLEI, and a number of colleges and universities where we worked with the professors and students there, paired them with local government participants to try to go through that whole process, as Brandy described before. And we've handed that off to Penn State. We're still partnering with them, providing the ICLEI memberships and trying to work with the communities that go through that process to try to continue to help them after they've finished the original LCAP. You go to the next slide. So over the 5 years of the program, both from DEP and Penn State, there's been 81 participants in the program representing over 480 municipalities across the state. We've completed about 71 greenhouse gas inventories, and I'm pretty sure these numbers need to be updated after the most recent cohort, but we've had at least 23 completed and finalized climate action plans and another 16 communities that have at least completed a draft climate action plan. I know that number is not right because I haven't updated it since the most recent cohort completed that. And also, as Brandy had mentioned, that with the work they're doing now, there's a number of sort of different deliverables and outcomes that they're producing, which can be equally useful. But the original metrics we were looking at were the draft climate action plans. So that's why I have those numbers. But a lot of the participants of these programs are coming out of it better prepared to be able to try to start looking at what they want to actually do and how they're going to start tackling various aspects of what they've put together in their plans. And that's what our programs are designed to do. If you go to the next slide. So that Shared Energy Manager program, Heidi actually modeled it off of an energy asset manager program that was put into practice by the state of Rhode Island's Office of Energy Resources. So her goal was specifically to provide boots on the ground technical assistance and support to the local governments that completed the LCAP program with identifying aspects of those plans and putting them into practice, as I mentioned before, specifically trying to help them decrease energy consumption, decrease their energy costs, and to lower greenhouse gas emissions. Also, there's a lot of focus on doing scoping work and feasibility analysis on the installation of renewable energy array like solar arrays, capturing renewable natural gas from wastewater treatment plants, that sort of thing, converting over fleets to electric vehicles. That's the kind of work that is typically done in this program by the local government participants. If you go to the next slide. So in the first 2 years of the program, which were in 2021, 2022, so we had the Borough of Indiana, Elizabeth Township, Reading, Chester County, and Bellefonte in the first year, and Ben Avon Borough, Abington Township, Cumberland County, the city of Easton, and the city of Shamokin in the second year. There's just a couple of examples of some of the things they did. Reading had been working on doing a conversion of their city streetlights over to LEDs. Easton, which I had sort of referenced a minute ago, looked at the possibility of capturing methane off of their wastewater treatment plant and producing renewable natural gas and pumping it back into the natural gas pipeline. We had a number of calls with UGI on that. There was work, again, to look at converting over light-duty vehicle fleets to EVs, to installing large solar arrays to power usually municipal facilities. And that's typically the kind of work that's done. There's a lot of benchmarking, on-site energy assessments of buildings, feasibility evaluations for solar arrays and vehicle fleet conversion, energy management plans, utility bill reviews. That's generally the kind of work that has been done in the past, and it's largely focused on municipal operations. I just wanted to point that out because that's something that we've tried to change a little bit over time. If you go to the next slide. So here's some of the results from the first 2 years. In both the first year and the second year, when we had the 5-member cohort, which was restricted to only former participants of the LCAP program. Our contractor, Wilson Engineering, who was the contractor for the first 2 initial years and is the one who is working through our 3rd year now and will be still working with them over the next 3 years. So this program is going to run for at least another 3 years, just to make everybody aware of that, and it's open to apply for. The application process usually starts in about November, December, and it runs through the calendar year. But in the first 2 years, with just those 5 participants, Wilson had identified over $400,000 of energy savings. They had done over 300,000 square feet of building audits for the participants in the program and identified a lot of different potential opportunities. They looked at everything from uses of geothermal power in municipal buildings to installing solar arrays and pretty much everything else I just listed over the past couple of slides. Sorry, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's just there's a lot of the communities that participate in these programs tend to look at pretty similar things. If you go to the next slide. So our office has been very lucky, as you sort of may have gathered from the presentation from Elena. We've gotten a lot of funding from the Department of Energy and the EPA over the recent years, thanks to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act. And this program has been funded with a IIJA grant of $3.5 million. So that's funding the current year as well as the next 3. The program was expanded from 5 participants per year to 20. And we are about, 3/4 of the way through. Some of the current participants have completed the work that they're trying to do. And there's a number which there's a lot more to do before the end of the year. So we've tried to expand the program from 5 to 20 as well. We've also tried to focus a lot on expanding the scope. Previously, the work was just focusing on municipal operations. One of the things we wanted to really get them to do was to try to expand this and to project out and find ways to try to more directly benefit residents in the communities that they're working with and help local governments create programs that can be of use to their residents. Additionally, it was previously only open to former LCAP participants, whereas now pretty much any municipality in Pennsylvania can apply. It's also open to school districts. I did not get any applicants from school districts the first time around. I got a couple of phone calls. I'm hoping to change that going forward. So again, if you know anyone's interested, I'm going to be opening up the application process again in November. It's basically just an online survey. Similar to what Brandy said, the only real requirement is that an applicant has the time to actually participate in the program, and you're able to work with us and get us the data that we need to perform the analysis that you're asking of us. And that will become more relevant on the next slide in a moment, but I just wanted to point that out. So we are trying to focus more on getting things implemented. A lot of the work previously provided analysis and scoping for the communities that we're trying to do this. We are hoping to try to push more of the participants into actually getting RFPs written, getting them put out, helping them score the RFPs when they come back, looking at ways to actually go from the beginning of the program to the end where there's sort of quote unquote shovels in the ground by the end of this whole thing. So we can actually see some of the implementation that everyone has been planning happen. So that is certainly a goal going forward. There is preference given in terms of applicants to environmental justice communities. Also, not necessarily former LCAP participants, but at least communities that have some sort of official plan in place, whether it's a local climate action plan, an energy transition plan, something to show that you've done the work in terms of figuring out what the local government would like to do. And then we want to be able to help you guys actually do that. If you go to the next slide. So the current cohort, we had 20 different 23 applicants. We were able to accept 20 into the program, although Cumberland County kind of turned it into 24 because they brought 4 separate municipalities within the county in to have specific energy assessment done work on their buildings, but that's fine. We've been able to manage that. So this is the cohort for this year. As I mentioned, we are trying to make sure that we can get another 20 next year and the final 2 years of the program. So I definitely do encourage people to apply for it going forward. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. If you go to the next slide. And I will turn it over to Sarah so she can tell you guys about the Energy Funding Assistance Finder that she created.
All right. Hi, can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. We hear you fine. I'm going to stop sharing so you can start sharing.
Sure. Okay. So let me pull that up very quickly here. Hi, my name is Sarah Pinter. I use she, her pronouns. I am going to be talking to you today about our Energy Funding and Assistance Finder. Just, first acknowledging, I know that my colleagues here at DEP and our friends over at Penn State threw a lot of information at you today about programs that we have available for your communities. There's also really good discussion going on in the chat, which I can't look at right now, but I'm sure we're going to be circling back here shortly. So, with all of these opportunities that we've discussed today, please know that there are so many more available to you, both from DEP, from the federal government, and from other sources as well. So, knowing that that is a lot to get through and we can't keep you here for the next 4 hours running through every program that we have and giving you the whole rundown, we really wanted to find a way to share additional resources with the public in a way that was going to be relatively user-friendly, that we could update frequently, and provided the need-to-know information about what's the program, what can it be used for, who's eligible, how much money can I get, that sort of thing. So with that in mind, we worked with a contractor actually based out of Pittsburgh, Fourth Economy. They were hugely helpful in getting us this excellent product here that we now update on a regular basis, our Energy Funding and Assistance Finder, which you should all be looking at with me right now. So using this tool, you can find additional funding and technical assistance resources available both from the Commonwealth, but also the federal government or other private and nonprofit sources of funding. So this was developed essentially, our primary goal with this was to help EJ communities access climate-related funding opportunities and technical assistance, compiling all those resources into one place so it was easy to access, and getting them hopefully connected to additional sources of funding. So there are 2 pages here. Right now we are looking at the funding opportunities. You will also see that we've listed technical assistance here too, so that you can kind of get the broad scope of what is available to you. We also have our resources hub, which kind of goes through additional places where you might be able to find other opportunities that maybe this doesn't track, but letting you in on a little secret here, we generally do use these resources to update our tool. So really the goal with this is to make something that is specific and comprehensive to Pennsylvania with our finder. A little caveat to this, what we are looking at here is our 1.0 version, I will call it. EPO is currently working to find additional IT help and funding to make this a little bit prettier, a little bit more user-friendly. I'd really like to embed it on our new website now that that's being built. None of the links or anything are going to change, by the way. We're just getting a new domain host, and it's going to hopefully make things a lot easier, make information sharing easier. So now that we're working through that, hopefully we'll be able to put out the 2.0 sometime later this year or maybe early next. But in the meantime, this is what the tool looks like. As I said, it compiles many different sources of information. And you can see here, I'll just kind of give a quick little demo of it. We have the names of funding programs here, who's giving it, what sorts of projects you can get done with it, the funding amount, additional details. And one thing that we really wanted to make clear was not only who is eligible, but what sort of priority is given to EJ communities. So when you look way over here, we've gone ahead and done a little bit of work thinking through who is this program designed for and how can it be used to benefit environmental justice communities. We did this primarily so that people can start to vision how this might be able to apply for them and for their communities. And, you know, I do want to give a quick caveat on this note that when you see this EJ analysis, PADEP will always use the term environmental justice area or environmental justice community. That is the term that we use for our programs. Federal groups might have different definitions. Disadvantaged community, low income disadvantaged community, a LIDAC. You'll hear these different terms. All of those are going to be grouped into this EJ category for us here. And those funding programs will use the definition of environmental justice community, energy justice community, disadvantaged community that is appropriate to that program. So if it's a DEP program, we would probably be using our definition. If it's a federally funded program, we're going to use whatever definition that the federal agency uses. So all of that being said, I think that covers it in broad strokes here. How can you use the tool? So I don't know if folks have used these sorts of formats before. I know it's a little bit finicky, but let's say, you know, there's a list of about 50 things here. You really only want to take the time to read through what's going to be effective for you. So I would say what you can start doing here is looking at different ways to filter the sheet. What you're going to want to do is deselect all, and bear with me because we also have to keep the heading in there so that it's usable. But then you can start looking for things like building, for building efficiency or something like that. Filter it there. And then you're only going to get programs that are for building efficiency. You can do the same thing searching for transportation, for climate, anything like that. And you can also layer these filters on top of each other. So again, let's say that you want to do community investment, okay? And then we're also going to have the project category selected just so that stays up there. So you're going to do a community investment project. And what kind of organization are you? What sort of eligible recipients can we find here? So maybe we will say we're also looking for nonprofit. If I could spell. So you can layer these on top of each other so you get just the programs that are relevant to you. And so you can see out of that list of 50, it looks like we have about 5 programs here that pull up using both of those criteria. The criteria can be a little bit finicky, so I would advise just playing around with it a little bit, making sure you're using all possible search terms if you're using it in this way. But generally, that is everything that you would need to know about the tool. A couple other things. If you are using this tool and you think, hey, I've heard of a program that should be on this list and I don't see it, please feel free to email me. We try to keep this as updated as possible. I will say, because we're in the middle of the web migration, this current version is a little bit out of date, but the new version should be going up later this week. So we'll have new programs up there for you to check out. So we're going to provide my email at the end. I can also give you the resource account email address as soon as I stop sharing screen. And as just a little bit of promotion, if you are interested in learning even more about what funding programs DEP has available, my colleague Colleen and I, who has been in the chat very helpfully answering your questions, we are launching actually tomorrow our Clean Energy Opportunity Spotlight Series. So these are going to be bi-weekly meetings, Wednesdays at noon. So over your lunch hour, they'll just be half an hour. And we're going to take some time to give you an overview of a program of the week sort of deal, give you the high level pitch on what that's going to be, and then open up for questions so that you have an opportunity to talk directly with the program managers within DEP or our partner organizations, kind of ask about, is this a good fit for me? How can I learn more? What sort of projects are eligible? And hopefully get connected to other stakeholders, get connected to each other, get connected to various other external sources of funding. So as I said, we're going to be launching this tomorrow with just sort of a program preview that talks about all of the very many programs that EPO has available right now. Just our programs, although we will be covering federal and other programs in the series as well. So if you'd like to join for that, that's going to be tomorrow at noon. I will drop a link in the chat, and I think Sawyer is also going to follow up with some additional information on that. And we will be continuing that series talking about the MORE program again in about 2 weeks for a different audience. And then beyond that, we're going to be talking about the Keystone Energy Efficiency Home Energy Loan Program, which is a program for residents, for homeowners. So those are the next couple of topics we have picked out. There's going to be even more on the way, but that said, I'm going to stop sharing screen and drop that link in the chat, and hopefully see you guys tomorrow and talk a little bit more about what we have going on. So thank you, Matt and Sawyer and the Sustainable Pittsburgh team. And I think our team is ready to take some questions if you are.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Appreciate that. And highly encourage everybody to check out that resource, the Energy Funding and Assistant Finder. Bringing it up on my screen now. With this link here, there are a few questions that I believe your colleague has been good at answering in the chat. I see that the event for tomorrow, the link for that event is very recent in the chat. So I hope folks will register. I know our team is looking forward to staying up to date and current on the flow of information that's coming from the state on these exciting energy efficiency, environmental justice programs. One question, what kinds of direct consultation do you do with environmental justice community residents and advocates regarding potential impacts, benefits, and outcomes? So it's, I guess, sort of similar to the Shared Energy Manager, the local climate action program. Is there a similar environmental justice program that provides assistance to community residents and advocates in communities in Pennsylvania that you're aware of?
Yeah, so thank you for this question. Because our office is pretty new into the environmental justice space, we are still kind of working out the best method for us to be meeting with communities. So right now, when it comes to EPO, we are doing pretty program dependent outreach, talking to people about, hey, we have our home energy rebates programs going on. So we're going to go and talk to folks about this topic. So generally our outreach has been structured in that way up to this point. I think we are interested in working our way into just kind of having a little bit more community back and forth with the public, which is one of the inspirations for the Spotlight series, so that folks would have the opportunity to just come to us with their questions. Those are going to be totally open to the public. We are going to ask people to register just so we can, keep a list of who's attending and have contact information if there's follow-up needed. But totally free to attend. We encourage people to start using that as an opportunity to get connected with us, and we're going to be working to push that information out through those methods and to try to invite people into those conversations in addition to the program dependent outreach that we're doing. In addition to that, we don't have any colleagues from DEP's Office of Environmental Justice on the call. But that office actually does do a lot of that proactive outreach with communities to get them connected to various topics that they might be interested in DEP. A lot of it is permitting based, although some of it is grant funding. And our collaboration between our office and the Office of Environmental Justice, it increases all the time. We're finding each other in more and more meetings together and try to stay on top of things, because we do feel like it's really important to be pushing out this information about climate funding for these communities, but also supporting them in their applications and getting them connected to the resources that are going to help them put in successful applications. So I know that's a bit of a long-winded answer, but we are absolutely working towards a little bit more proactive outreach. And to the extent that you all on this call have questions or want to talk more, my favorite part of the job is getting to talk to communities. So please do feel free to reach out, because otherwise I'm going to be sending emails and editing spreadsheets. So please, by all means, reach out.
Well, it sounds like an open invitation, everybody, to give Sarah a call and discuss your environmental justice or clean energy projects and opportunities. And I wouldn't, I'd take advantage of that opportunity, because Sarah has a wealth of information and is working really hard along with all of the colleagues that are on the call to bring these resources to communities. So encourage you to take a look. So thank you so much. We did things a little bit differently. I infused a bit of questions because we're running short on time, but I'm going to hop into just a few more resources to leave us with before we wrap up today's presentation. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sarah. Fantastic information. And I just, like I said, wanted to share a few more resources before we wrap up today on the federal side. First, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, I'm sure that folks have heard, which was authorized by the Inflation Reduction Act about 2 years ago now. And it's overseen by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So this is the federal level. It included $27 billion to address climate change. $7 billion has been allocated for Solar for All, which Pennsylvania has received an allocation. So that will be a program in the future. We're not going to cover that one today, but be on the lookout for Solar for All. But those other two programs that I wanted to mention that are authorized through the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund are $20 billion worth of funding, loan funding through the National Clean Investment Fund and the Clean Communities Investment Accelerator. Two different programs, similar approaches. The $14 billion national program, so this is the national program, and there were three entities selected for the national program, 5 for the Clean Communities program. Together, these 8 entities are funding programs that address those objectives listed on the left-hand side of your screen: reducing climate and air pollution, delivering benefits to communities, especially low-income and disadvantaged communities, and importantly, mobilizing private capital to get that job done. So how this program breaks down, you can see where that $7 billion Solar for All is off to the side. That's not where I'm focusing on right now. The National Clean Investment Fund, it's consists of those 3 entities that have received the allocation: the Climate United Fund, which has received $7 billion, Coalition for Green Capital, they've received $5 billion, and Power Forward Communities received $2 billion. And you can see the Clean Communities Investment Accelerators. Importantly, the Appalachian Community Capital, which these entities are acting sort of as hubs for the national investors and national investment programs. If you're interested in having projects funded through these programs, they must meet a 6-part definition, which is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, reduce other air pollutants, deliver benefits to communities, and the project would not have been otherwise financed if it wasn't for those funds from these 2 funds. It has to mobilize private capital and support commercial technologies. So you can see some of the types of projects that could be financed using these programs. Now you might be wondering, how is this helpful? These are funds that are available to local governments, to small businesses, to nonprofit organizations to state governments, local governments across various types of communities. So, and these are low interest loans. Whenever we hear of grants, we're all often excited to get that funding. This is very low interest financing. And so it may take a little bit to break this down and understand what these resources are. Fortunately, the federal government has authorized environmental justice through the EPA's Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers. The Environmental Justice Thriving Community Technical Assistance Centers are available to provide sort of this framework for technical assistance using this hub approach with different core hubs. Be on the lookout for programs or resources that refer to TIC-TACs. That's the often referred to acronym of this new technical resource that can help you explore those different resources that were discussed today, also but more importantly, those federal resources that we were discussing. Bringing it back down to the state level, another program that was just recently announced was the $396 million for a program called Reducing Industrial Sector Emissions in Pennsylvania, the RISE PA program. And that represents actually 10% of the federal funding that was allocated nationwide. So Pennsylvania is one of the largest grant recipients. The incentives will be from between 25,000 to 300 million for small, medium, and large scale decarbonization projects. Focused on the industrial sector. Some projects could be in installing energy efficient heat recovery systems, heating and cooling, more efficient heating and cooling in industrial settings, electrification of industrial plants, swapping out diesel power generators, projects like this. So be on the lookout for program guidelines for this one as well. So we already had sort of a Q&A, and I know that we're over time, and I know that we're just a few minutes over time, but for those that are on, please take a moment. This is a survey. This helps us, this QR code is to a survey that helps us better understand the content that's most valuable for you. So when we're developing this information, we're hopeful that you'll just take 1 minute, fill out this survey so that we can get some feedback on how to create more engaging, more relevant content for all of you. And that's why we do it, is for all of you. So if any of you have any questions or any insights that you'd like to share, please get in touch with our team. You've heard from Sawyer today. We have a fantastic team of dedicated professionals that are always willing and waiting to hear from you. So please reach out to Rebecca or Sawyer, myself, anybody on the Sustainable Pittsburgh team. And we look forward to hearing from you and look forward to seeing you again for the next Policy Connection, where we dive deep into these details so that we can learn together. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.